going to get started with this presentation. A few more may join in as we go, and that is okay. This is a trial run. It's okay to be late on the trial run. I will not fail you for this class if you're late this time. So just getting started. And I want to say that with this particular topic, it's okay to ask questions and it's okay to question answers. It's not okay to have answers that you can't question. And that's where science has been stunted, where it's just been stuck in the Darwinian time period where they didn't know a whole lot about life and they had a lot of theories and there was a bias in science. And we're going to be looking at that bias. And so that is something that it's okay to do. You guys feel free to ask questions. The things that I'm putting out there that supports the truth about creation and the Bible. If you have questions and want to question that, feel free. Our journey here is to prove all things. It's not to show off how smart we are. It's to show off how true the Father's word is. And so I thank him for providing us with this opportunity to fellowship, and want to give glory to him and all of these things that we do, things like this, and just say thank you, Father, for bringing us all together on this journey. It's a blessing, and I want his spirit to move on this. I don't want it to be about me. I want it to be about all of us, his children. We're all equal. I think it was the Messiah who said, call no one teacher, like we're all equal. And so it's a blessing to be on this journey with you guys, and let you know that even though you may get made fun of, like me, for being a creationist, everyone in this world is a creationist, believe it or not. It's just that there's two categories, with one of those categories being that nothing made everything, that the complex creation that you are and the technology that you're using that isn't even close to as complex as you was made by absolutely nothing. And so those are the ones that we're told are the wisest ones in the world. And then there's people like me who believe that someone made everything. And again, those are the two types of creation. You're one or the other. There's either nothing or someone. And I tend to believe that someone has made everything, not just based on faith, but also the experiences we have when we try to prove all things, when we put our trust in this creator and reach out and seek a relationship with him. We find out that he is telling the truth. And even with things like this right here that you're seeing on the screen, this looks like a leaf, in my opinion. And if I was to tell any artist, hey, make me a leaf, use anything you want to make a leaf, I've never seen a fake leaf that looks this much like a leaf. But this is not even a leaf. This is a butterfly. And this butterfly is so good at what it does, you can't even tell that it's a butterfly. I want you to see what I'm talking about. Here's one in real life. This video. There it is. I would sweep that up with the rest of the leaves. But check this out. This is fascinating. This person's like feeling of it. They move it. There you go. That's a butterfly. Looks exactly like a leaf. I mean, there is a very obvious, intelligent design to this thing. And again, I could watch this thing 1,000 times over and never would I assume that that's a butterfly. Not only that, it wasn't always a butterfly. It wasn't born looking like a butterfly. It was a totally different creature with a totally different purpose. So really cool there. I'm going to see if I can change the slides if it'll let me. But this thing here, from a macroevolution standpoint, and when I say macroevolution, that's a version of evolution that states what I was talking about, where everything came from nothing, that slow changes over time are a creator. That's what made everything. That's what a macroevolutionist would believe. And they would say that change over time made this organism look exactly like it does. But what do we now know is responsible for making things look the way they do? It's not changes over time, something else. There's a genetic code, and they always try to make it look simplistic by comparing it to things like computer code. And our genetic code is far more complex than any computer code in the world, ever. I mean, it's ridiculous how much more complex you guys are than the computers you're using to do this thing that we're doing now. Because your computers, no matter how much time you put them out by themselves, they're not going to grow another computer. They're not going to consume their own energy. They're not going to do the things that we were designed to do. And so there's a complexity to life that goes far beyond computers and anything out there that mankind could make. And so this is just scratching the surface. And that genetic material, this is what's really cool about that. I found this out this year, and I'm not saying that this is fact. This is based on information that I've looked up on good old trustworthy Google. And I say that sarcastically. You people watching, you young children, don't believe everything you read on Google. And so I'm using their numbers, the numbers that the alleged experts are giving us when I do these things. And so I think that the truth goes far beyond what Google is telling us. But according to Google, it says that each of your 30 trillion cells has 1.8 meters of DNA. And so when you're thinking about something like that butterfly that they say change over time would be able to make, that's a structure of an organism that's not made by wind blowing on something, by something wanting to look like something. There's a genetic code that grows that creature from the time that it's conceived until it's developed. And again, it's not even a butterfly when it's born. When it starts out, it has a different purpose. It's going around consuming. And then when it goes through its metamorphosis and turns into a butterfly, this thing it's no longer consuming, it's pollinating flowers. It's doing something totally different. So totally different purpose, like a lot of us. Oops, somebody, I was trying to admit them and it went away. Hopefully they got admitted. Let me see, 1 second. Participants. I think they got admitted. I hope they did. It's like their little name just disappeared. All right. So to give you an example of how, go back to that, how much that is for those of you who are visual like me, 1.8 meters of DNA per cell is equivalent to about 6 feet. So if you have a person that's 6 foot tall, if you've ever known someone that's that tall, not a lot of them in my family, but 1.8 meters, about that tall. And so if you do the math, and I had the fun of doing the math here while I was bored one day at work, and cut to, give myself a visual, something I can compare it to. Your genetic code, based on what they say, could go around the equator over 1 million times. I don't know if you've ever driven across the country or flown in an airplane. That's a long distance, just going around the equator once. I've never done that. Not very many people have. And when people do, they become famous. But imagine the genetic code that makes you as awesome as you are, because you're the only person to ever have your exact genetic code ever in the history of creation. And that's how much you have. So it's fascinating that we're that complex. And that takes us way beyond the old Darwinian evolution days, where they would think that cells were just these little blobs of jello, covered with skin, like there's nothing much to them. But that's not the case. The more we study life, the more we see complexity, the more we see things like this that are mind-blowing. But that has to do with the DNA. But yeah, like I said, with that amount of genetic material that could go around the equator over 1 million times, 1.3 million times, there's no machine that could pack that much code into a computer or anything. And so just remember that you are wonderfully made, and you have that much inside of your body, inside of your cells. And this stuff is still, we don't understand it. We don't even have a photo. You saw the little cartoon of the DNA right here. Looks like a twisted ladder. This is a cartoon. And the reason I'm showing you cartoons is because that's all we have. I want to clarify that. There's no photos of DNA, of what they say you're made of. You're going to see a lot of animations throughout your education of this stuff. This is an animation. I'm not saying that's what it really looks like. It probably looks way more masterfully made than the twisted ladder that they put out there as models of it. I could be wrong. It may look similar, but we don't know what it looks like. We don't have a photo of DNA. So you'll hear talks about it. You'll hear about them manipulating it. But again, no photos of it. And again, this is just what the experts at Google have to say, the people that put in the information that gets promoted. So we could have way more genetic information than that. And that's why we don't really fully understand life. But to give you a good definition of what evolution means, it doesn't mean people came from monkeys. It doesn't mean any of that. All it means is change over time, like these cell phones here. These cell phones changed over time. Evolutionists would say they have a common ancestor, but we know they have a common creator. That's why they have a lot of the same functions. They do the same things because that's what works. And so when you're creating them, you can change them a little bit, but you're not going to change them completely, because the function of sound going into something and going to another person, that's their purpose. And so they're going to have similar features as you see. And then you get to the modern day, more advanced phones, but they've changed over time. Okay. Change over time is not a creator. Change over time is a modifier of existing life. Okay. I like to give the example, this glass of water that I have, I don't know if you guys can see me. If this little glass of water, oh, that's cool. If I was to tell you, I didn't go into the store and buy this glass right here. I found this in the yard. I dug it up. It was made by pressure and heat, lightning striking the soil, all these different things, because glass is just melted sand. Just pressure over time made this. And I didn't even have to fill it up with water. The water purified itself and made its way into this thing. This is just something I found in nature. You guys would think that I was crazy, but how much more complex than this glass of water are you? Far more complex. And like I said earlier, you're far more complex than your cell phone, than a computer. Our genetic code does so many more things than a computer could ever do. And so you're going to see lies, though, about life. And here's one of them. Here's an article I found recently when you type in "scientist making life," because we like to, mankind like to pretend that they're a creator, that they can create things. And I found this article. It said scientists create simple synthetic cells that grow and divide. So you see there, just based on that title, it sounds like our creator is not that good because mankind can do what he's already done. However, when you read on, read the fine print, it'll tell you things like this. They didn't build that cell completely from scratch. Instead, they started with cells from a very simple type of bacteria called a mycoplasma. So they're taking existing life. We cannot create life. You can give the most advanced scientist all the ingredients needed to make a cell. They can't make it. They can't. You can spill all the ingredients out and go, here's all the ingredients, make it alive. We can't do that. We can't resurrect the dead. There's only one that can do that, and there's only one power that has done that throughout history, and it's the Most High every time. And so all we can do is modify life. And as we're seeing in these days of Noah, like I mentioned to Noah earlier, as we're in those days of Noah, they are modifying and corrupting flesh at rates that I've never seen in my short 40 years of existence. I've seen in the last 10 to 15 years, this is going to a whole new level, especially in the last 3 or 4. You guys have probably seen that as well, with them modifying everything. Can't create it, but by golly, we can modify it, and it's going to degrade it. We always act like we're improving things, but we're not. There's a order for things. There's an intelligent design to everything that keeps things alive and functioning the way that they should. And evolution is just change over time. And so that change over time, they want to tell us that this change over time made a complex machine. I used an example of a glass of water. Here's a layout of some of your body systems, and you have many of these body systems working together. And it's about to get really cool, because you look at all these different body systems. Which one do you think is responsible for making blood? Anybody have any suggestions or thoughts on that? You may have watched our first video and found out, or one of our first videos. There's I would look at these and think the heart, or these red things here, the veins. Those look like they might make blood, but if I would have picked any of those, I would have been wrong. The bone comes from, or the blood comes from your bones. That's mind-blowing, because your bones, they just look like they're made for support, solid structures, almost like tree branches. But these things are responsible for making blood. Gives a whole new meaning to dry bones coming alive, because these things are what make blood. And not only that, something has to signal them when you lose blood to make blood, and to add just enough, not to add too much. So there's a lot of intelligent design going on there with all these different systems and different parts, and you can break down the different parts and they get more complex as we look down. And so we talked about that blood coming from where? Your bones, right there in that bone marrow. And the cool thing about that, this is something, guys, I'm continually learning. I learned this last year about the bone aspect in your heartbeat, when it happens, your very first heartbeat, because we're going to learn about cell division at some point. And these cells, your blood cells, they don't have a nucleus. And as you'll learn, if you haven't learned already, the nucleus is where this cell division happens to make new cells. So like if you scrape your knee, you're going to grow new cells. Cell division takes place, and it takes place with the nucleus, with the chromosomes and all of, there's a lot of things that go into cell division, and we'll get into that. But your blood cells don't have a nucleus. And so my question was, where do we get new blood cells from? I know that I donated blood many years ago and it came back. I know that people get hurt and they lose blood and it comes back, but how? And so that's where that red bone marrow comes in, and the blood is made in the bones, somehow miraculously gets into your veins in your body. And so scientists tell us that there's a hormone in your kidneys that is released to tell your body, hey, make more blood. Okay. What's telling your kidneys to do that? I don't know. Maybe it's the intelligent design, the breath of life, the thing that is guiding all of our lives and all of creation at work. Okay. We always try to give credit to hormones triggering these things, when there's factory workers that couldn't even control a human body. If you had them going and doing all the things our bodies do on their own, they would get fired. Everything would go crazy. But cool thing about this, I'm getting somewhere with this, is that a fetal heartbeat, meaning when you were very first a little tiny, like a little seed, and you were growing inside your mom's stomach, and you were the size of an apple seed, to give you a little comparison. That's an apple seed in her hand, not a baby. But that fetal heartbeat can be detected as early as 5.5 weeks. And so the cool thing about that, you don't have bones yet when you're 5.5 weeks. You don't even have the kidney that they say triggers blood to be made from the bones. You don't have any of those, but you have a heartbeat when you're just a little, what they call it, they like to call it a clump of little cells. You were never a clump of cells. You were a masterful creation of these cells that were going to become who you are today. And before your heart even had the sinal node that helps produce the electricity, because you're an electric person, you have electricity in your body. That's mind-blowing too. We don't think about that. Okay, so it'll make more sense when you see somebody they're trying to revive. What do they do to bring them back to life? They shock them. And so that always didn't make sense to me when I was younger. I'm like, hey, they always tell me electricity will kill you, but then when you're dead or you're dying, they shock you and it brings you back to life, allegedly. But that's not what's happening. There's an electric part of your heart, and we do all these things to alter our hearts in that electric pattern. And when it gets messed up, it takes shocking it to kind of sort things back out, because there is an electric aspect that starts off in a certain spot. Scientists don't know why. I watched a video this year where they're trying to study that with zebrafish, and they're watching those first heartbeats take place. They don't know why those heartbeats start up. Who's turning the on switch? Why those groups of cells? So there's a lot of things we don't know in science. And the good thing about this course is we're not going to pretend to know. And scientists, they may pretend to know. They don't. They're just pretending. We don't know what is causing that to happen from a macroevolution scientific standpoint, because it's all bogus. We have a creator that has made all of this happen with his breath of life and his intelligent design. And so that's the cool thing about that. I have a little video here, but we'll skip past that for the sake of time. It's a zebrafish video. It'll be in the presentation if you guys want to watch it later that I share with you guys. It's one of those where they're studying it out. They're trying to watch these first heartbeats take place and figure out why. And they even try to silence the part of the heart that's starting the pulse to see what happens. And then it takes over on the other side of the heart. Pretty cool. But again, you guys can watch that afterwards. So to go into the bias of science, so this is a guy named Charles Lyell. You hear about the earth being billions of years old. You hear this all the time. I heard it. I mean, I've gone on family vacations. You can't escape this lie. Every time we go to a national park, they'll say this formation began millions of years ago, or this cave was from millions and millions of years ago, and all, they always throw millions and billions of years out there. But this exact scenario started, I mean, it's demonic in nature, but it was a guy named Charles Lyell who said, he's said to be the father of modern geology, and the geologic column that we're going to look at here in a second, with his personal observation that started this was that the earth appears to be aged. Okay. He's like, hey, look, the earth looks old, so therefore it's really old. I mean, that's literally the scientific mindset they had back then. And so you have this guy, Charles Lyell, and you try looking up pictures of him and it always pulls up Charles Darwin. These guys, they look like twins when they were younger. Might be the same person. Who knows? Haven't gone down that rabbit hole yet. But his words that he said was, or his goal was to free science from Moses. Talking about the Moses of the Bible. Okay. He didn't say Moses doesn't exist or that there wasn't proof. He's just saying we need to get science away from the Bible. That was his bias. And it has gone a long way. But the cool thing is, for those of you researching this, we have actual solid proof that the Red Sea crossing happened. You read about it in Exodus, right? And it's one of those stories that I remember as a young child when I watched the Ten Commandments movie. I was captivated. We have chariot wheels on the bottom of the Red Sea that are coral encrusted, just like they would be had they been there for as long as they have been. And there's even some golden ones, as you can see on the bottom or the top right corner of your screen, that's still there. They're not coral encrusted. They are golden, buried in sand. They've been uncovered a little bit. But this proof, that guy, Charles Lyell, is telling us we need to save the science from Moses. No, we need to bring Moses into the classroom because there's proof that he lived and that the events that our Father has had his prophets tell us about, that they happened. So the Red Sea crossing, setting his children free, just like he's doing right now with all of us, that it happened. And not only that, you can go to the shoreline where this Red Sea crossing happened, and you can see melted sand right there. You see these stones, they are just, they're infused in this melted soil. And that when you get soil really hot, it takes about, I'm trying to think how hot it is. If anybody remembers, it's like 3,000 to 5,000 degrees. I'm trying to remember the exact temperature to get melted soil and sand to make glass. But that's the pillar of fire that you read about in Exodus. If you haven't read that story, read about it. That pillar of fire, you can almost see looks like footprints here, where those people were so ignorant. After the pillar of fire left, they went right in between the water that was parted. I would have never done that. That's a strong delusion, blinding these people to go after the Father's people, and the Father is going to protect his people, and the waters covered them up. And that's why there's chariot wheels there. And so freeing science from Moses was the goal, but it's our job to take Moses and the truth of the Bible back into science, and real science, not false science. And so that's one of the biggest goals we have here at Creation Standard, is to do just that, to bring the truth of our Father's creation back into your minds and let you see that your parents aren't crazy. They could literally take you to this shoreline and show you these puddles, these glass puddles with infused stone right there where this thing was known throughout history to have happened. The fact that it's still there is mind-blowing. The fact that we don't see this in the news is not surprising. And you're not going to see this stuff in science text unless we make them ourselves. And so that's one of the things that I'm hoping we could all do, given that we have enough time. As you can see, time seems to be running out faster and faster with these crazy world events and deceptions to come. So homeschool, while it's still legal, I've talked to people in other places where homeschooling is illegal. We met a lady from Greece, and homeschooling in Greece is not legal. She cannot homeschool her own children. So you guys are fortunate, those of you who are able to receive the homeschool instruction and learn from your parents who are strong believers. And so this takes us back to the geologic column when we talked about Charles Lyell. He's one of the people who said that we can verify how old the Earth is, and based on his reasoning, and this is his reasoning, this is what he says. I'm not saying this is true, but his reasoning is when you ask him, like, let's say you're a curious child in a museum and you show up and you say, how do we know how old the layer of soil is? Because these little different colors would represent layers of soil with the number 1 next to it. How would I know how old that is? Well, then he would say, well, because of the fossils we find there, that's how we know. And then if you said, well, how do we know how old the fossils are? He would say, well, because we know how old that layer of soil is. And so it's called circular reasoning. It's not, you're not proving it. You can't prove it with that type of reasoning, because each one of those answers depends on the other answer being true, and there's no way to verify that. And so when you start really looking into these little layers of rock to find out if they really are millions of years between these different layers, you find cool things like this. This is a tree, a petrified tree in between layers, and it's vertical, it's straight up and down, that would be millions of years apart. And we know that trees, they don't last millions of years. And so this tree couldn't have had a base that was around 38 million, 65 million, however many million years ago. And then every, million years or so, there was another layer that came in, and this happened rapidly. This had to happen rapidly with land moving with a worldwide flood, possibly. Okay, events that are going to move large amounts of soil. And so when that happens, you have a lot of minerals depositing rather quickly. And so the flood that happened with the days of Noah would be a good way to produce something like that. And we don't just have one example. There are tons of examples of vertical trees inside these different layers. And so that's proof right there that these layers aren't separated by millions of years. There's rapids events that have happened to cause these things to do what they did. And here's a little video of that from one of my friends, John Adolphi. He's got a lot of cool artifacts, but this is a replica that he has. So check this out.
This right here is an exact replica that was done of a polystrata fossil. Polystrata meaning that there's a fossil going through multiple strata. Now, scientists would say that the strata here is about 2 million years old, but that can't be, because that can't remain intact while that's taking place. Here you've got coal down here, and clay and sandstone and limestone. And so what this says is that this deposition took place rapidly while it went around and surrounded this tree trunk. And that is another proof of a worldwide flood and a young Earth.
Pretty cool.
This right here.
Oh, sorry. There we go. And here's another one, because every time you go caving, if you've ever been to a cave, I recommend it. Don't go in the dangerous, small little tunnels. But if you get a chance to go to a cave, you're probably going to have a tour guide telling you that these stalactites and formations coming down from the top of the cave, or from the bottom, which would be stalagmites, that those formations took tens of thousands of years. If not, they'll throw out the millions of years for the big ones. I've seen some that are massive, and they're like, this one took millions of years, but this one took 10,000 years. They throw out big numbers. And as a young child, 5th grade, whatever grade I was in when I went on those trips, I remember just being mind blown, like, wow, that took a long time. But check this out. This is the same guy looking at a pipe that has the same types of formations that you would see in a cave. And look at how young this thing is.
Underneath the streets in the Czech Republic in Karlovy Vary, there was a 6-inch water pipe that carried mineralized water. After 80 years, they had to, remove it and replace it, because this right here, this mineral buildup, is aragonite. This is the same material, for the most part, that you see in the stalactites and stalagmites in the caves that they tell you are hundreds of millions of years old. This took 80 years to form 3/4 of an inch. Let me show you a larger pipe. Look at this. The question is, how long does rock take to form? How long do stalactites and stalagmites? And how do we know that there wasn't a ton of water that went rushing through those caverns at one time after the worldwide flood of Noah? That's right, worldwide flood of Noah. Underneath the street.
And so thinking about that, this is water pipes. They've treated this water. So you can imagine water that's taking sand and soil and minerals with it. It's going to happen faster. So it doesn't take a long time. And you're going to see those arguments that we know that everything's old because we have all these fossils and things that are millions of years old. It doesn't take long for something to turn into a fossil. That's why you see things like this praying mantis hasn't changed, and they say it's 30 million years old because it's in this ember. It's not 30 million years old. It's no more than several thousand years old. Okay. Anytime you see something saying that it's more than 6,000 years old, they're lying. And so here's another example. I found this just the other day, like 2 days ago, a tree stump in a coal mine. Imagine that. How did a tree stump get in a coal mine? Because for one, look at the ceiling of this thing. The tree couldn't have grown that big. So the tree stump was already there. This thing has moved, probably swept in to this cave during a flood after the tree had already fallen down and solidified with this mineralization process that doesn't take very long. So these coal miners were freaked out. They're like, what's going on? We have a tree stump in our cave. This does not make sense. You know, logically, there's no way for that to happen unless there was a worldwide flood, a lot of water moving this thing in through this cave system and solidifying. So pretty cool stuff. And that takes us to the tree of life. We'll look more back at this fossil stuff in just a second. I'm going to try to wrap this up pretty soon. But you'll see a tree of life like this if you go into a classroom. I borrowed this. The picture on the right was one that was posted in a teacher's classroom that I worked with. And they like to say we all have a common ancestor. If you're ever taking a state test, and some of your homeschool situations in some states, they will make you take a state test. When you see the word common ancestor, that's the answer they want you to pick. And it's not the right answer. That's the answer they're going to try to force you to pick, and they want you to pick. If you don't pick it, then you'll get that question right, but on their test, they will count off. So if you're taking those tests, the words common ancestor, that's what they're trying to brainwash you into picking. And they'll show you family tree of life like this. And the fact that they call it the tree of life is a slap in the face to the real tree of life that was in the Garden of Eden, because they don't account for everything. They don't account for every species. You'll never see one that has every species that's ever existed, because we can't even fit all the birds of the world onto one poster board. And that's just the birds. There's butterflies that are all different. They're all extremely artistic. They're all symmetrical. They all have a genetic code that makes them the way they are. They all have this intelligent design that gives them these features, as well as fish, things in the water. They can't fit all these on to a poster. If you wanted to sit and take the time to put every single species that we've ever known of in a long single file line, I don't know how far that would go, but that would just really help expose their lie. And so it'd be a fun project to get every single fish species that's ever existed, every single bird, every single everything, put it on a long roll of tape. See if you can't roll that down the interstate. That thing would be massive, because we're always finding new life when we start searching out this world and all the things that the Father made. Sadly, you're seeing that diversity of life decrease. We're not seeing it increase. We're not seeing new species ever being made. We've never seen one change in kind. We've never seen one fish turn into anything else ever. All we have is diversity that's already here, and it's actually losing. We're losing kinds. We're losing organisms. We're not gaining any organism. So there's a better look of just some more. If you put them out, you can't fit these onto their fake tree of life. There's just too many. And so that's a quick look at the tree of life narrative. I wanted to put that in there because I know at some point you guys will be exposed to seeing that imagery in the old fossils that we want to tell you about with dinosaurs. This is where it's going to get interesting. For those of you who like dinosaurs, I don't want to break your heart too bad, but dinosaurs and all of that, the age of those alleged fossils are not as old as we've been told. But you will see the words like this. I copied this from Google, and I highlighted in yellow at the bottom that they are in the ballpark of hundreds or thousands of years. And many times they will say hundreds of thousands of years, if not millions. But here's something sad, but also groundbreaking, in that it shows us they're not that old. This is a fossilized foot in a boot, a cowboy foot in a boot. And I'm thinking, man, where this guy must have been tough. I mean, he left his boot laying around with his foot still inside it. Hopefully he got away, went home, put some tape on it, wrapped it up. But this isn't that old. This boot, this style of boot hasn't been around that long. Okay. If anything, because this boot was found in 1980, I believe it was Texas. And so they found this thing in 1980. It couldn't have been many decades old at that point. I would say this boot can be from the 60s, maybe even 70s. Who knows? It looks, I've seen people wear boots like this today. So it's very well designed, that boot is. It's not one from like the 1600s or anything. This is a modern day cowboy boot. And with the minerals and the rain pulling all that stuff into that boot, we had fossilization and petrification, where things turn into what is like rock essentially, happening rather quickly. Did not take thousands and hundreds of years. It happened fast. And so this is one modern day example. There's many more of these, and you'll see articles. I had a student in class, he goes, I want to look this up. And the article said, time traveling cowboy from 40 million years ago leaves his fossilized foot. Yeah, right. Don't believe everything you see on Google. This was people get confused when they try to mix false science with reality. And they would assume this is a time traveler because according to their theories, it would have to be, but it's not. This was somebody who lived and died, or hopefully they didn't die. Hopefully maybe their foot got trapped in a rock and they were able to survive and remove the foot and live like a peg-legged person. Who knows? But there's the boot to show us. There's another angle of it right there. Petrified, just like rock, just like the dinosaur bones that they tell us are millions of years old. And here's a fossilized octopus. If you like these creatures, they're interesting. The only problem is they don't have bones. They have no bones. And so to fossilize them, it would take days, because if you wait weeks, there's not going to be any more flesh left around. It's going to get rotted up. It's going to go away. It's going to dissolve. It's going to get eaten up by all these sea creatures. Again, a worldwide flood coming in, covering this thing up with mud and all those minerals coming in. And just like with that boot, turning this thing into a fossil makes way more sense than the given narrative that this thing took thousands of years. And so here's something really cool. You can see this process take place in a matter of months if you're interested in that. There's people, they make a living at this little park that they have in another country. We'll show you a quick video on that, or parts of it. I don't want to show the whole video, where they make things turn into essentially stone within literally a few months. And there was a lot of legends that came with this place that, they used to think there was a witch that lived there and turned people into stone, because they would find dead animals turned into stone. And they thought there's a witch that lives in this cave. But no, it was just real science showing us the truth. And so people hang things up. You can see there's a sock hanging up right there, little teddy bears, ice skates. I don't know why they hang such weird stuff up, but it turns into stone. I don't know why you'd want a stone sock to bring home to your loved one or your children or anyone for that matter. But there is the beloved things that people have. Maybe they were sentimental. Maybe it was their lucky sock. Little teddy bears, and these things will turn into pure stone. So I think the video's on the next slide. Let me see. I'll just mute this guy. He's got some interesting stories, but irrelevant to what we're talking about for the most part. But there's the things hanging down. You can see the water is running over them. It looks like crystal clear water. And people actually, they drink that water. They think it's got all these miraculous properties. But it's just mineral water, essentially, pouring down. You can see where it runs through the soil on the top. And then as it runs through, it goes through those, whatever you have that's porous. It works better on things like socks and cloths, because that water and the minerals can stick to it. And so that's why that cowboy boot fossilized, same type of situation. You had water running over top of something that was porous, like bone, which has a lot of pores inside of it. And so those pores get filled up with minerals, and that's where you have this mineralization process. I'll leave this, this video will be with the presentation. So you guys, if you're fascinated by this, you can watch that video. They claim that woman was like a prophet and all that, but no, it's just a interesting figure in time. And that cave actually shows us that fossilization takes place rather quickly. Let's see if I can skip past this. There we go. So dinosaur bones. This is where it gets interesting for you dinosaur fans. I used to think we had complete fossils of dinosaurs everywhere when I was a child, because you see dinosaur bones in museums when you go, they're everywhere. And I remember walking in and going up to the biggest dinosaur in the room and just thinking, wow, look at this creature, millions of years old, so massive. Look at all these bones that they've put together. However, I was not looking at real bones. I was looking at models of bones, models that they make. Why would they make replicas and models of things that they don't have? Because we don't have a complete set of dinosaur bones. Think about that. You don't have a complete set of dinosaur bones in existence. After all these people believe in them, after all the movies we've seen, we don't have a complete set of bones. And when you look up why, it says, well, because they were either washed away. What could wash away a bone the size of a couch? Probably a giant flood, or changes in the Earth's tectonic plates. So something that massive, and there would have to have been billions of these things in existence to if they evolved from a single cell, billions of them, trillions of transitional kinds to make them. Not that that's possible, but according to their theory, that's what it would take. And so them washing away, we would be on a mountain of bones right now with these creatures if they were what they say they were. However, they're scattered abroad as if they were destroyed, a lot like you see in the book of Enoch when it talks about the giants battling it out, the corrupt flesh, the pre-flood corrupt flesh. Whether you believe that they were giants in those days or not, there was something large, and we don't have a complete skeleton. So when you see skeletons on display of these things, it's not real. Okay, it's molds. It's molds of things that they have shaped together to make look like a creature that they think would have existed. But the cool thing is, we have proof that not only do we not have a full set of bones, but that these things are young. They're not old at all. There's a guy, Mark Armitage, who proves this time and time again. He believes that they were dinosaurs. He believes in the dinosaur narrative. I personally don't believe that these were exactly like the ones that they put on display. I believe they were the corrupt flesh, the pre-flood giants, and possibly dragons. Who knows what existed pre-flood? They were, again, corrupting all flesh, so we don't know what they had in those days, but we have remnants of them. We can study them, and Mark Armitage does just that, and he discovered that there's soft tissue in these things, and he was fired for his finding. They told him to keep his religion out of their school. When it wasn't religion, he was just finding something that already was there and existed and that somebody else had already found. A lady had found, Maria Schweizinger. Is it Schweizinger? I think. Oh, I got her name up here. I always butcher her name. I think it's Schweitzer. I can't remember. But Mark Armitage, he was fired for his finding. And you can read articles about that. He found soft tissue. You think this would be groundbreaking. He found something that should have been impossible based on the world's wisdom. And he was fired. He wasn't promoted. This guy now volunteers, and hopefully I can have him come on and share some of his findings with you guys. Even though he believes a little differently than me, I value his research, and in his persecution, he's been persecuted. He won his lawsuit because he did have proof for what he found and what he believed. And his work is in peer-reviewed journals. Not that peer-reviewed means that it's fact. There's a lot of weight put on peer-reviewed things, but you are all our peers. We all review these things, and essentially everything that's proven true is peer-reviewed. The Bible's been peer-reviewed and proven to be true. And so it's a scientific book because we can prove it and peer review it and test it all we want. It is true. And so that's him. I will leave a lot of his videos on here. I'm going to show you one real quick right here. This is cool. And this, you're about to have your mind blown if you've never seen this. This is really cool. Check this out.
My name is Mark. I'm with the Dinosaur Soft Tissue Research Institute. We're a group of volunteer scientists who are studying dinosaur bones, and we're looking for soft tissue. For example, this Triceratops frill, which comes off the back of the head of the Triceratops, full of cells, full of veins, full of blood vessels, full of soft tissue. And so that's one of the three things I want you to know about dinosaur bones. We can dissolve these bones just like they're a regular bone from any animal that's dissolved in the regular laboratory today. In fact, hospitals do this kind of work routinely on human bone specimens that are collected by the doctors. And so we can dissolve these bones. These have not turned into rock. These are still bone. That's number one. Number two, the fact that they're full of soft tissues means that they can't be old. We're told these are 68 million years old and older. And how can that be if they're full of soft tissue? We know the soft tissue doesn't last for a long time. And so these things cannot be as old as we're being told because they are full of soft tissues. Another thing that's very important to understand about these bones is that they're being found all over the world. Every single continent so far has yielded soft bone that can be dissolved with soft tissue in it from dinosaurs. So those.
And so just to clarify, he's calling these things dinosaurs. That's not what I would call them. I think they were bone fragments, again, from the corrupt flesh. And so when you hear that word dinosaurs, the image that comes to mind is usually the things that we've been programmed to see, these creatures from allegedly millions of years ago. But he's about to show you with forensic science how these things died, how these specimens that we're finding around the world. Again, we don't have complete sets of bones because, like Google says, they washed away. And like the Bible says, everything was, destroyed with that flood when those floodgates were opened and the fountains of the deep were opened. That's going to move some large bones around. That's why they're not together. And so these pre-flood creatures, no matter what you think they are young, and he's going to show you how they died. And I hope that works. I didn't realize the list of people was showing up on your end and blocking the presentation. I tried to hide that. So I hope that works. Bring it back here later on.
These are some very important facts that you need to realize. But here's the shocking thing. We've thin sectioned these bones. Here's an example of a vertebra from a Triceratops that we thin sectioned and put on a slide. And we examined this under a very specialized microscope. And you know what we found? These are full of blood clots. All the bones, we found dinosaur bones now from 6 or 7 different individuals. Every single one of them has blood clots in it. Here is one of those thin sections of Triceratops bone under the microscope. You can see the 2 white arrows pointing to very thick blood clots that are in the blood canals of the bone. The entire bone is filled up with these blood clots in the canals. Now, if we look at it under UV, it looks completely different. The UV light is so bright and strong that it makes the metal inside of the blood clot glow. So what you're seeing is the glowing of the iron from inside the blood clot, proving that these are indeed blood clots in these bones. Why is that important? What does it mean? Well, when a vertebrate organism dies in water as a result of drowning, their blood clots inside their bones. It also clots in the rest of their body, but the rest of their body rots away, right? But the bones remain. And so we found clots inside of every one of these bones. What does that mean? All the dinosaurs drowned. All the dinosaurs around the whole earth drowned because they all have clots in them.
So I find that fascinating. Again, these things, I don't like calling them dinosaurs because that goes with the whole worldly narrative that these were these, ancient millions of year old creatures that were existing and they were destroyed by asteroids. But this asteroid narrative also falls apart with his forensic science because we see they had evidence. If you were to do a autopsy on these things, essentially was what he is doing, you would find out they died from drowning all around the world. And so any of these large creatures that were still alive, they died as a result of drowning. So that corrupt flesh, what we would call dinosaurs, not the case. These things are definitely something different, and they are not millions of years old. This puts them in the ballpark of thousands of years, which lines up with the flood timeline.
But
all right. And so I'm going to link all this stuff. This will be in the presentation that I'm going to share with you guys afterwards. I'll send it out in an email so you can explore these things further with your parents, with your children. And here's a little screenshot of Maria Schweitzer. That's how you say it, Schweitzer, her work. She was one of the first people to stumble across this, and this picture shows you a red blood cell. She dissolved the bones in a solution, and that's where that spongy tissue came into view. Little capillary here with a red blood cell still intact, not millions of years old. And it's part of what helped steer the ideas for the Jurassic Park series that has been around for so long. So really cool stuff. I'm going to go ahead. We've been going for a while, so I want to move on to the fun part, the game. I know everybody likes to play games if you're like me. That'll be a lot of fun. And I'll give you guys a chance to set up with that, ask any questions while people are getting set up with the game. You guys have been awesome. And it's called GymKit. And to join it, you can join from your phone and you can join from a computer. Either one, a computer is far easier. And to go there, you just type in the address on the top got somebody joining us. There you go, Lewis family. To join us, go to the address on the top, GymKit or GimKit, however you say it, GIMKIT.com/join. Once you type that in, it'll ask for a code, and this is the code you'll put in, 605-800. And the game is a lot of fun. Essentially, I'll show you, I'll give you an example. Some of you will join in as we're going. Your goal is to climb high. If you've never seen this game, it's a lot of fun. Somebody raise their hand. Oh, cool, that's cool.
My name is Vincent, and I think that in the Bible it talks about people were mixing other animals together, and that they could have different animals could have existed like the dinosaurs,
Yes.
and that they just died during the flood.
Yeah, very wise, Vincent. Yeah, that is exactly, that's one of my theories too with a lot of these creatures, is that they were mixing and doing things that we're starting to see scientists try and do today, trying to do the stuff now, trying to mix animals. I went to the Ark Encounter, and it's supposed to be a Christian place, and they had mixed a zebra with a donkey and made a zonkey, and they had it on display as if it was some cool thing that was on the Ark. But the Most High is against mixing these things up. So, so yeah, I think you're spot on with that, Vincent. That's pretty cool. It lets you guys raise your hands. I didn't know that. I'm just now figuring out a lot of these things with Zoom. So yeah, this is pretty cool. See if I can see everybody in the chat. This is cool. Nice. Quite a few. It shows me how many participants we have. We have 12 people. 12 people on day one. I wasn't sure what we would get because we have 200 people on the email list. But yeah, if you guys want to join the game, I've got it set up for about 15 minutes. It's a fun review game to review what we just covered. Let me turn the volume down on this. Maybe I can mute that. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's gimkit.com/join. And when you enter the code, let me know if it works. And the goal is to get as high as you can. You get points by answering questions. And so when you answer a question, it gives you like, I'll say 3,000 points. And you can go until your energy runs out. So there we go. We got Sierra, that's how you say it, in the game. And so it's a lot of fun. I'm not gonna lie. This is an addicting game. I hope I don't start some big addiction. If you do, there's you can add Bible trivia to this. We did this with our family. This past Sabbath we had Bible trivia. We were all playing each other at the same time. Be nice to each other. Don't trash talk. Stay humble when you're doing good. There's a thing about this game. It's humbling. You might be answering questions and doing really good and be the smartest one in the room. But if you get too cocky, you will fall. And it's like the Bible says, exalt yourself and be humbled. Humble yourself and be exalted. That's what this game is all about. Because I'll start getting a little bit less humble because I'm doing better than everybody. Going too fast. And next thing you know, I'm back on the ground and everybody's looking down at me like, hey, where'd that guy go that was trash talking a minute ago? So remember, stay humble. If your computer lags or something, there's lag issues that happen when we play this in class. We have some situations where where'd that go? Where there's a lot of lag. I'm trying to move this to where we can see the game. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. So I'll give you guys a few more seconds to join in. Is there anybody trying to join in that's not able to? If you are, I can wait. If not, you can sit back and watch us all as we struggle to climb as high as we can. I wish I could figure out a way to move this to where it's not going to be in the way. What does that do? So I'll be trying to get better with this stuff as time goes on, so that next year, if I'm able to do this full time and we can have our lessons interactive a couple days a week, where we can start out and then end with a fun game and have some family bonding moments where we play together and learn at the same time. I think learning does not have to be boring. And so, oh, and this game, just to give you some heads up, there's a double jump feature. If you use the arrow keys, if you're on a computer, you can double jump by clicking the up button twice. I just use the arrow keys. Some people like to use the A, W, S, D. Those work as well. I think W will jump if you're on a computer. But the double jump feature is how you get through a lot of these obstacles. And the goal is to get as high as you can. And if you fall, start over. It's like the good old days. There's no continue and save. So if everybody's in, I'm going to go ahead and start the game. If you get kicked out of the game for whatever reason, the code will be in the top left-hand corner. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Looks like we've got everybody that's wanting to play in the game. Again, if you're not in, the code will be in the top left, gimkit.com/join, and enter the code 605800, and that'll let you play. I'm going to hit start game. Once I hit start game, you can run for a little while, but you'll run out of energy and you'll stop dead in your tracks. Then you have to answer questions. So you'll click answer questions. When you get them right, it'll be questions from this video. When you get them right, then you can move on. So getting answers right gives you the ability to jump further and further. Okay, I hope that makes sense. This is going to be a lot of fun. Maybe you've played GymKit before. To me, it's a new addiction, and I'm trying to break the addiction. But right now, it's been beneficial because I've used it to have some fun while learning. So, all right, here we go. Unclick start game. It's about to get real, people. Brace yourselves. It's going to get competitive. It's going to be fun. Don't get too hard on yourself if you mess up. You can always learn and get better. First time I did this game with my 7th graders, again, I made the questions. I finished 9th place out of 11 people, and I made it. So don't get discouraged if you don't do good. Now I can win. Occasionally I win, not bragging or anything, but I've won a couple times, beat me some 7th graders. It's a lot of fun. So, all right, here we go. All right. Give you guys a head start. You want to go to the right. It's the way you want to go. Going double jump. Remember the double jump, hitting up button twice will help you jump further. It'll give you a warning that you're low on energy. All you got to do is answer questions to gain some energy. Right. Answer me some questions. Feel free to encourage anyone who's doing bad without trash talking. Yeah. You can check the leaderboard in the top too. Ooh, Noah. We got Noah in 3rd. Oh, Noah just dropped 5th. You guys are starting to move along. Noah's this is competitive. I like watching the leaderboard. Noah in 2nd place. V&O in 3rd. Nope. V&O in 2nd. Pierre's in 5th. Silas just jumped to 2nd. Noah's in 2nd. So you guys are figuring it out, it looks like. The leaderboard shuffling up. The goal, again, is to go as high as you can. If you see anything that takes you upward, follow those steps. Oh, somebody's passing me. Somebody's passing me. That was V&O. Now I'm in 2nd place. 3, 2, 1, 0. Boom. Game over. Who was the grand champion of grand champions? Let's see. 1st place, V&O at 149. Sierra got 2nd. Good job. I know her and Noah. Sierra and Noah battling it out. Noah got 22 points for the bronze medal. Bronze medal. If you're in the top 6, that means you're an All-American, because I think top 8 are All-American in the world, and it means we're the best in the world right now at this game. So good job, guys. Jesse, 16. So that's kind of one of the fun games that, again, I love to play that game. I will stop sharing my screen. You guys did awesome. A lot of fun, and hopefully we can next time we play, you guys will have practice and at that game. But again, that's just one of many. There's many more games we can play like that. If anybody had any questions or suggestions, feel free. I'll go ahead and let you guys get back to life. I've only been able to do this because I'm off work today, and I don't have coaching or teaching or anything. So I figured this would be a great time to do that before I start knocking out more of the to-do list. But yeah, appreciate you guys joining. It was fun. Always a learning experience for me. When I go over stuff, I see something that I haven't seen before usually. So yeah, I will share this presentation. If you don't get it tonight, remind me, say, hey, you didn't send that presentation. I'll try to clip out things that would make no sense if you don't have the lecture to go with it. But yeah, lots of cool things you can investigate. We'll go in. Eventually, my goal is to get into the missing links, because with evolution, there has to be missing links, and there's not. And you'll be told there is. And then we'll go over the dark history. I didn't want to go into the dark history of that. That would have been too lengthy. And it gets sad when you look into those missing links, because it's caused a lot of lies, and it's created a lot of sad situations when you look back at their origins way back into Nazi Germany. Well, with some of these concepts, how they bled over into racist ideas based on drawings and cartoons and racist images that they put out there. And a lot of it has to do with that that atheistic bias towards Darwinian evolution. And so yeah, it's gonna get sad. It gets dark for a little while, but some of their proofs, when they fall apart, it's fun to watch them fall apart, and it's laughable because these are a desperate enemy's attempt to hide the Father's truth, and they sometimes get caught in their lies, or often, as I'm seeing, caught in their lies when you investigate them. So if no one has any questions, we'll go ahead and conclude. I thank you guys so much for joining in our first ever live experience with Creation Standard. And I'm hoping to have many more next year. Of course, it'll be more organized. We'll have age groups. We'll have different time slots, I'm hoping. And we can find out where everybody lives. You may be like right next door to somebody that's joining this experience and not even know. And so create little communities, little like co-op type of environments where people can go and fellowship. And so I could also have my wife come on here, who deals with homeschool, and she has for the past couple of years, and she does a pretty good job with my daughter, who is I don't want to say challenging, but definitely strong personality, has a strong personality. So it's not the easiest thing, but you have a great job, a blessing to be able to teach your children. And if you feel like you're not doing a good job, you're doing a far better job than if they were exposed to the lies and then you had to battle those lies, because that is one thing that's hard to undo. I've seen children literally, like even in my own family, when you try to bring up things about the dinosaurs or the shape of the earth, be like, no, my first grade teacher told me. And then, it's a battle to undo something that they've learned by someone who was innocently teaching what they thought was true because they inherited that lie. So you guys are doing a good job. Children are blessed to have you. And you are blessed to have these children who are willing to take part in this. So thank you guys so much. No one has any questions. I'll look in the chat and see if there's any, if I can figure out how to do it. There you go. Yeah, somebody said really enjoyed the class. So yeah, again, thank you guys. Been a blessing, and we will see you guys around next time. I'm just sorry for not doing more with this.
Josh,
I really planned on it. Yes. Did somebody say? I heard a voice. I'm hearing voices.
thank you, Josh.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for your input and for joining. I'm hoping to do more, especially next year. This year is going to be very sparingly when I put stuff out, but whenever I get a chance to do a quick video or something, I'll try to do that. If you guys really enjoyed this, we can come back and do another one whenever our schedule opens up, and focus again on evolution, since it's one that covers 5th grade all the way through high school. I mean, you're going to see the false evidence at most grade levels. And so it's good to see it when you're young, how it's a lie, and then be able to battle those lies as you go. So thank you guys. You guys are beloved creations of the Most High, one of a kind. And I look forward to seeing you guys around real soon. So take care, stay safe, stay humble, obey your parents.
Bye.
We'll see you guys. Much love.